What's up YouTube, Birdman here with another Destiny 2 video. Today I'm doing a tier list of all the Titan exotics in Destiny 2. I really wanted to do one of these just to kind of show people exactly what they need to focus on and what they can kind of throw to the side if they get in a random drop or like doing a Master Legendary Lost Sector or something like that. Now before we get into the video, know you can follow me over on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch at Birdman778. Absolutely give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel, helps me out so much. Know you can also use my code BIRD at G Fuel checkout for 10% off. Make sure you follow me over on Twitter to know when we're having those boosted weeks where it's 30% off instead. But as of right now, it is 10% off. Now, let's hop right on into the video. So we are ranking these exotics from S being the creme de la creme to F being the poopy doopy whoopy schmoopy of the bunch. So let's start off with the feedback fences. These are Titan exotic arms, and unfortunately I think I have to put these in C tier. Now when I look at C tier personally, I kind of just think these are average. There's nothing really amazing about them, but there's nothing like ground terrible, we hate them, all that stuff about them. The thing with the feedback fences is the fact that you will generate energy by doing melee kills, which then whenever you get hit, you will do a AoE damage around you that will hurt enemies and more likely kill them. It ends up being arc energy. For this exotic, I really kind of like it, but at the same time, the fact that I have to melee people to charge that up, I don't exactly like. I think the way that they could fix these is essentially you taking damage charges this up, and then you release it by doing a charge to melee. I think that'd be so much cooler, and I think it'd be really nice for especially like middle tree code of the Devastator Titan. Being able to throw my hammer after getting plenty of damage and then it doing even more damage would be really interesting. But kind of just how they are on their own, I just don't think they really hit that well. Next up, we have the Axiom War Rigs. I'm essentially just going to put these as C tier. The fact that it steadily reloads my auto rifle or LMG is like kind of okay. I know this was kind of big early on in Destiny for the Callus fight. I know a lot of people like to use this, but at the same time, I just think anymore in PvE, you have a lot better exotics to use, and for PvP, I don't really see you ever using something like this at the moment. Maybe in Trials if you're really trying to be spicy, but other than that, I just don't think they really hit. Next up, we have the Aeon Safes, and these are an easy A tier. The fact that each class has an Aeon exotic for them that all kind of do the same thing is really nice. I think it doesn't deserve S tier just because of that, because they're all essentially the same thing, but the fact that these are an absolute must in like Masters and GMs, I definitely think you should be having at least one of these on each one of your characters, just for the fact it's going to help out your crew. You're going to be able to do those different abilities, especially the one where you do finishers on champions to get special ammo and heavy ammo. We really like it, and I think these are some pretty dope gauntlets. Next up, we have the Insurmountable Skull Front, and that's an easy A tier for me, purely off of the PvE aspect of it. Getting arc kills is going to give you regen health and also recharge some of your melee ability. This is so much fun for pretty much any of the three trees for arc for Titan. I really like this, just especially with well mods as well, just because you're able to really do a lot of melee power charge hits and stuff like that, and getting your charged melee back as fast as humanly possible. This has always been a fun one, especially in Destiny 1. So I really like it, and I think it absolutely deserves that A tier slot. Next up, we have the Antaeus Swords. We have these boots. And I think that that's an F tier. I mean, the fact that it's just improved sliding, and essentially after a short period of time, after sprinting, whenever you do a slider, it bounces back projectiles. I don't think that's that useful. I don't really see anybody using this in PvE. I don't ever see anybody using these in PvP. I just think it's kind of a niche thing that they tried to do that just didn't really hit. I think something that they could do to really improve these is maybe do like even faster and longer slides, something like that. And also just constantly whenever you slide, do that projectile bouncing. I just think the way they are now is just, again, just a niche that no one's ever really gonna use. Next up, we have the Armamentarium. This is going to give you 2 different grenades to use. That's it. It's 2 grenades. I think this is another C tier. I think this is interesting in a way just because it's just kind of like a grenade. I think your early light players are really going to enjoy something like this just because, again, it's going to be some like fun little niche thing for them to use, but it's never going to be used in like high-end content, especially PvE, and I almost never see anybody using this in PvP. So, again, I just don't think this is really all that worth it. Now we have a favorite of mine, the Ash and Wake Gauntlets. Now this might be a controversial one for some of you, but This is an easy S tier. The fact that your fusion grenade explodes on contact, and also you get more grenade energy after kills with it, I think is absolutely amazing. This is like the one set of gauntlets I think synergizes the best for Solar Tree with well mods, purely off the fact that the solar well mods are really focused into grenade energy and explosives and stuff like this, and this is absolutely perfect. You will always have your grenade back as fast as humanly possible. You can use your melee as well to help generate into this, especially again with well mods. So using like melee well maker is really fun, especially like throwing hammer. It'll instantly kill people. You'll get those orbs you need. It'll feed into your grenade. You throw your grenade, so on and so forth. These are absolutely amazing. I think you should always have these on every single Titan you have. Next up, we have Simian's Rampart. Sinton's Rampart. I don't know how to spell or pronounce things, guys. You probably realized that by now. But I'm going to put these at B tier. The reason why it's a B tier is the fact that whenever you do your towering barricade, it's going to make it essentially tangible, so you're able to shoot through it and your teammates are able to shoot through it as well. Why is this cool? Well, this is amazing for PvP especially. There's plenty of maps where I know where there's like a doorway where people feed in and out of, where you can throw this up and essentially shoot through it, hit your enemies with it. It's really nice. Now, the reason why it's a B is the fact that it kind of nerfs the barricade as itself. It's not going to be as strong, so you're not going to be able to hold it up as long. And I really just don't ever see this being used in PvE. I don't really even see a use for it to be used in PvE unless you're just like constantly wanting to check up barricades and stuff like that. I think though the PvP aspect of it really does put it at B tier and makes it a very, very viable option. Especially like this past week we had Iron Banner. I had plenty of dudes on my team checking these up, and I loved having this up. Next, we have the Crest of Alpha Lupe. Now, this has been a Destiny exotic since day one, essentially. Everyone loves them, and I'm honestly going to give this exotic a fair shake and put it at A tier. I think the overall support aspect of this really helps out, especially in PvE. Now, you're not really going to be using this a whole lot in PvP. The whole niche of it is whenever you use your super, you get more orbs back, and also whenever you put up your barricade, it's going to heal around your teammates. This is actually going to be really great for, I would say, some of those nightfall, like early nightfalls, maybe up to master if you really want to be a little bit cheeky, depends on the one especially. But extra orbs is really nice right now. Now, this might fall down a little bit here in the future with the orb changes that Destiny is essentially implementing here soon. So I don't really know. I think you should try this out. I think they're super solid. Next up, we have the Curios of the Falling Star, and this is an easy S tier exotic for Titans. Why? Because it turns your Thunder Crash into an absolute mama jamba bamba. Essentially, before, Thunder Crash was like good, but it wasn't that great. It was like you're literally hurling yourself at the enemies. And sometimes, especially with like bosses and stuff like that, it would like barely do any ticks against them. So the fact that it boosts up that damage for you is really nice all around. Again, the overshield is really nice whenever you do it as well. I essentially, whenever I'm doing like high-end content with my friends and we're like, okay, what do we need our Titan to do? Do we just want to do like a big DPS, something like that? I always put this on. I put this on in raids. I put this on in GMs, dungeons, all that stuff. Absolutely get yourself a Curios of the Falling Star on one of those days where chests are available on the legendary or master lost sectors. Now we have the Doomfake Pauldrons. Now this is going to be another one of those I think people are going to be like scratching their head about where I put it. But I'm putting this at S tier. This is an amazing exotic for Void Titans. Why? Because essentially getting melee kills is going to get you more energy, especially with Void, and also the fact that it's going to constantly regenerate your super while you're getting kills while using your super. Now, essentially, if you're going top tree, middle tree, or bottom tree Void Titan, you're going to want to use this, especially if I would say like strikes and stuff like that. You might not be using this as much in like those GMs or Master Nightfalls, but the other ones are going to be super useful just for the fact you're going to be constantly able to generate your super through meleeing, and also whenever you activate your super, you're going to be able to do this. Now, a lot of times people associate this the most with bottom tree Void Titan, but I think you should absolutely use this for middle tree. The fact that whenever you chuck your throwing shield at somebody, it's going to activate that detonator on them. They're going to explode. That's going to generate you some more super for you to constantly use this. This is a perfect one. You can pretty much clear an entire lost sector if enemies are constantly spawning with just one super using these. Now, this video is sponsored by our homies at G Fuel. G Fuel has been absolutely amazing to me, giving me different flavors to try out. out, and absolutely just having some of the best product out there if you're looking to have that energy, that focus while you're gaming. They have been around the bend plenty of times. They have plenty of flavors for you to try out. You're not going to be able to, some of those other ones are going to find this very small catalog of different flavors to try, versus G Fuel where you have pages upon pages upon pages of stuff to check through. So make sure you're using my code BIRD over at G Fuel. Check out for 10% off. And make sure, again, follow me over on Twitter. We're having plenty of weeks where this code is boosted up to 30%. And also check out their website. They have plenty of sales constantly going on. What I'm trying to tell you is go check out G Fuel. Next up, we have the Dune Marchers. Now, this is an easy A tier exotic. The fact that it gives you faster sprint speed after for a certain amount of time sprinting, you get that chain ability whenever you do a melee attack is really nice. This is so much fun in PvE. I absolutely love running through lost sectors with this just because it'll just decimate everybody. You'll all of a sudden see this lightning strike hit a random enemy over the side and they die. Then it's one less person you have to worry about. This is great in PvP because whenever you're getting kind of like jumping at like a point or something like that, you shoulder charge or something onto somebody, it's going to hit all the other enemies around them, weakening them, making them easier to kill. And just also extra sprint speed is really nice for a Titan. We typically don't have that great of mobility, so having something that gives us a little bit better mobility is really nice. Next up, we have the Eternal Warrior. F tier. Guys, all this gives you is an overshield when you use your super. That could almost instantly degrade if someone shoots you. It sucks. Don't use this exotic. End of statement. Next up, we have the Hollow Fire Heart. Now, I'm going to put this one at C tier because I just think there's better options. The next one we're going to be talking about is like an even better option. So essentially what this does is just improve the recharge rate of your solar abilities and will make it even faster when you have your super completely filled. I don't like that because essentially it's forcing me to keep my super full and not being used all the time if I want to get the most out of this exotic. You're not really going to be seeing this used all that much in PvE. You'll never be seeing this used in PvP. It's just an exotic that really needs a big rework. Honestly, I think it needs to essentially improve the overall damage of my abilities that are solar. And if I'm going to be using my super or something like that, maybe just give me like a quick refill on those abilities, something like that from using it. I don't know. This could be a lot better synergy to it all around. And honestly, the fact that I'm putting it at C tier is being quite generous. And here comes the way better option, the Heart of Inmost Light. Guess what? This is an S tier exotic, guys. The fact that it overall just empowers all your different abilities while you're using something else. So if I throw my grenade, all of a sudden my melee and my barrier empowered, vice versa for any of those is so freaking nice. And the fact that it's also perfect for well mods makes it just an absolute just beastly exotic to use for PvE content. Now, is this good in PvP? Absolutely as well. You could get your abilities back really fast. I'm chuck a grenade and then all of a sudden someone comes at me and I use my melee on them. It's going to do even more damage. I can chuck my barricade, yada, yada, yada. You get it. This is a great exotic. This is one I think people just like let fly over their heads for no reason, just because there's also other great options in there. I mean, we talked about Curios before, but the Heart of Inmost Light is one that I've been using a whole lot for my different builds I've been doing, just because, again, for well mods that I love with my heart and soul all so much, this is the perfect exotic to use. Now, here is probably my favorite exotic in all of Destiny 2, and I've loved this since the day that I saw it, and this is the Helm of Saint 14. This is an easy S tier. Why? Because whenever enemies go into our bubble, they are going to be blinded, and this also works for using the rally barricade as well. So essentially, this is a twofer. This is a twofer exotic for two different types of a super. So again, put my bubble, people come in it, they're gonna be blinded. I throw my rally barricade and like move around like this and hit people with it, they'll be blinded as well. But it's also super nice, so whenever I put up my bubble, my teammates that go through this are going to get an overshield for themselves. So this is a perfect support exotic. It represents probably like one of my favorite characters in all of gaming, Saint 14. So easy S tier, we love Helm of Saint 14. Now, next up, we have the Fall Mantels, and I'm going to put this at D tier. Reason why it's at D tier is the fact that essentially it's just getting rid of your barricade to give yourself an overshield. This isn't really going to be useful at all, in my opinion, in PvE whatsoever, just because, again, I could use the Eternal Warrior and get this used way better. Also for the fact that the Fall Mantels are essentially going to slow you at the same time. So I just don't think they're that great. I think what they could do to really improve this is essentially whenever you activate, you get the overshield, plus it does like an AoE stasis ability, hitting enemies around you. That would be really interesting, especially like in PvE. I can jump into like a crowd of like dregs or something like that, activate it. They're all going to be stasis frozen. I can break those stasis, get crystals, get my ability back faster, and essentially you have a really fun like Nova exotic to use. But unfortunately, on the way that is right now, it's just kind of crap. Now we have the Keffree's Horn. This is going to be our second B tier exotic. Now, I did a bottom 3 Titan exotic helmets short a while back, and I put this at number 3. And honestly, I think I misjudged it a little bit. Trucking up your barricade is going to shoot out a solar line of fire, kind of like what your solar grenade can do at times. I think this is kind of interesting in the way I would say it's pretty much just interesting for PvE. You could totally put this in PvP when you're fighting somebody, but it's really hard to like chuck up a barricade and line up that shot without your other enemy like one shooting at you or just jumping out of the way. But I think for at least PvE content, it's really interesting. I think something they could do to really improve it is increase the amount of times that it shoots out that fire out of the barricade, and also just improve our overall barricade recharge rate. Now we have the Lion Ramparts, and I'm actually going to put these at A tier. I think these are super solid just because it gives your Titan some really cool movement while he's in midair, and also the fact that you get better target acquisition while you're flying through the air. This is going to be an absolute must for like some of those like times like you're exploring a dungeon or raid for the first time as a Titan. You're able to kind of like explore around, kind of find your way around, especially like those big chasms and something like that. They're just really fun. I think they're just like great maneuverability, great support for yourself, and really interesting. Now, we have kind of a controversial one here, the Mask of the Quiet One. I'm putting this at D tier. Essentially an exotic that's based around me taking a lot of damage to get my abilities recharged, where it doesn't really recharge my abilities all that well. And then whenever I'm critical, the fact that like kills will heal me, well, I essentially have to be half dead for one part of it to work, and then I have to be attempting to be half dead for the other part of it work. I just don't think that's really that great for overall synergies. I think the way that this could really be fixed is, well, one, if I am taking damage, ramp up that ability energy way faster. I should be able to like get like 2-shotted by somebody and then be able to immediately chuck my grenade. But I think whenever we go critical, maybe automatically activate some of that healing right there, so I don't have to like get a kill to immediately heal. I think it's gonna be really interesting for PvE in that aspect, but unfortunately the way that it is now, I think it's kind of crap. Next up, we have the MK44 stand-asides. I'm gonna put these at B tier, mainly for the fact that shoulder charge abilities right now have been buffed to high hell. So essentially what it's going to do is going to give you an overshield while you're sprinting, while you have your melee fully charged, and then whenever you use it, it's going to give you some melee energy back. I think this is pretty cool for PvP and PvE. I would say for PvE, you'd be using this a whole lot less. Essentially, you have a whole better option than Peregrine Greaves all around. But as it is, the fact that I get an overshield for having it is pretty interesting. I think this is one that could really just be improved by maybe just recharge rates and stuff like that. Now, we have the no backup plans. I'm going to put that C tier. Essentially, it's forcing me into using my top tree void at the moment. Shotgun kills will give me that overshield, and then whenever I'm getting shotgun kills, I get my melee back faster, so on and so forth. That's interesting and all, but unfortunately, I think it just has no real great synergies in, I would say, PvE. This is definitely going to be a PvP shotgun, but at the same time, I'm going to shotgun somebody, get my shield up, and just kind of the way that PvP is set right now with special ammo, you're not going to be able to use this all that well in it, I think. I just think there's better options. Next up, we have the Mask of the Quiet One. This has been an exotic that people have hated and loved for so freaking long. And I think I'm going to put this at A tier. I don't know if it deserves an S tier all that much from just like kind of some nerfing and stuff that it's had in the past, but the fact that it's going to target highlight targets that hit me, and then I'm going to get overshield for hitting them back and killing them is really nice. I think the issue with it is the fact that I have to get kills to get that overshield. But honestly, all around, it's still an A tier exotic. Like, it's still amazing. You still see people using it in PvP all the freaking time. I think they need to find some way to make it more viable in PvE, I would say, but other than that, it's still amazing exotic. Now we have the Peacekeepers, D tier. The fact that it's just like an SMG all around exotic is kind of annoying. I really don't like things that are like only use this one thing to make this useful. I hate that. I hate that, especially when it's an SMG. Now, this was going to be like way more useful back in the day when we had like the Recluse being way more viable. But unfortunately now, I mean, there's like still some really cool SMGs out there, but like, I don't know. I just don't really like something that focuses so hard into one weapon type. And the fact that it honestly is just more of a PvP focused exotic just isn't for me. Now we have the Peregrine Greaves, something that has absolutely shot itself into the stratosphere. And I'm going to say this is an A tier exotic. Now, you're going to be seeing a lot of PvP Destiny sweats out there right now running Peregrine Greaves, just for the fact that it's going to do a whole lot more damage whenever you do a strike in mid-air. You're going to be seeing this in PvE as well against champions. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. But unfortunately, I think the fact that it relies so hard on just a one-shot ability kind of holds it back. If it gave me a lot more energy, kind of like the stand-asides do whenever I use my shoulder charge, that'd be better. But the fact that it's kind of just a one and done kind of holds it back from the S tier in my opinion. Now we have the Sun Warriors, and I'm going to put this at B tier. I think this is kind of interesting that makes our sunspots last twice as long, and also the fact that our allies going through that will get the Sun Warrior ability. This is really cool. It's a great support one. I think the only issue with it is the fact that it does force you down into bottom tree solar only. You can't really use anything else. You can't use middle tree, you can't use top tree. But at the same time, the fact that it is such an interesting support exotic for Titan, especially in solar, which seems to just be absolute devastation all on its own. It's not like Void where it's got different things that kind of help everybody out. I think kind of holds it back a little bit, but it's still really interesting. Next up, we have the Precious Scars, and this is an easy A tier. Getting weapon kills with a subclass matching the current weapon will do healing around to you and your allies is really interesting. It's great for, especially I would say, Master Nightfalls. You probably won't be using this as much in GMs all the time, just because it's kind of hard to get those kills. You're kind of focusing on like certain meta weapons to do that killing, and depending on what like the element of that weapon is to your subclass type won't be that great. But the fact that whenever I revive a teammate, it's going to do that big AoE around me that gives overshields to everybody is so cool. Again, I use this a lot during the Master Nightfall for Sepix Prime, just because you're always in kind of a tight area with your team, and the fact that getting that healing for them as well as getting overshield if one of them dies and I pick them back up is really awesome. Now we have the Severance Enclosure. This is a kind of a dark horse sleeper pick for me especially, but I have to be honest with myself and put it at B tier. Getting a charged melee kill will do an explosion around you, well, explosion around the enemy themselves, that will do extra damage to enemies within their range. And also depending on what level that enemy is, so like maybe like a yellow bar, it's going to be doing an even bigger explosion, is really cool. This is awesome with Middle Tree Code the Devastator Solar Titan, just because you're able to chuck your hammer around constantly and just do those explosions. Now, the issue with this is the fact that there's no like element to the explosion. You can't take advantage of it as well with well mods, and also the fact that you have to be able to kill people to do that is kind of holds it back. I think it does kind of force it into that middle tree the most, but still, it's really cool. I really like this. I really want them to do an ornament for this because I think it's kind of ugly on its own, and I would love to find a way for them to maybe like add like maybe grenade in there as well, does an extra explosion, just anything just to do more damage. Now we have the Strongholds. This is going to be our third F tier selection. Just maxing out guard stat on swords is kind of stupid, and the fact that it says it heals, which I don't really notice that healing whenever I'm guarding, is kind of dumb. These are just kind of an absolute waste. If this exotic feels like they were just like, what can we do? We'll do this, and it just was like, I would have rather you just not give me an exotic for Titan at all that round, or just brought something out of the vault and give me that instead. This is a bad exotic. Now the moment you all been waiting for, the Synthoceps, easy S tier, just increased melee lunge range, just awesome PvP and PvE, extra melee damage on top of extra super damage with it. I just love this exotic. This is amazing. You can absolutely one phase bosses in dungeons with just Middle Tree Code the Devastator in these. It's amazing. You love them. Get you some Synthoceps. Next is the Path of the Burning Steps, and I think this is an easy S tier. Yeah, S tier. You're going to be noticing these a lot more, I think, going into Witch Queen when they adding more maybe solar weapons to the energy slot. Pure of the fact that it's going to give you extra damage on solar kills, and also just all around you, not being able to be affected by stasis. You're not going to be frozen or anything like that is super awesome. I like these exotic legs. I think it helps give Titan exotic legs a good name, because I mean, as we've seen through here, like, yeah, we got like Dune Marchers, Lion Ramparts, Peregrine Greaves, all that stuff, but at the same time, you just don't really notice people using them as much. At least I don't use them as much, but I do love the Path of the Burning Steps a whole hell of a lot. Now we have one that's a big favorite of mine, the Ursa Furiosas, and this is an easy S tier. This is going to be our final S tier as well, purely off the fact that running this, especially in that high-end content, those masters and those GMs, you will always be able to have your super up, because you're going to be taking so much damage while you're holding up your rally banner. You will also be able to do plenty of orbs for your teammates, so you're just helping everybody out so much. You're helping yourself out. You're able to constantly hold up that super. I absolutely love these exotics. I think that they need to do more things like this, where it's giving you super energy whenever you're kind of blocking damage. I would love to find maybe like a helmet or like a chest piece for like Bubble, where the more damage the Bubble takes, the more orbs are created, something like that, especially going into Witch Queen, where orbs are going to be kind of more trivialized off of the weapons. So more stuff like this, we need it. And finally, the Worm God Cares. I gotta put this at B tier. Reason why this is at B tier is purely the fact that we have the Synthoceps. The Synthoceps essentially gives you the same big chunk to your melee energy, but at the same time giving you that extra lunge range and extra damage with your super. This gives you just plenty of melee damage, but again, you have a better option, and the fact that Bungie can't freaking make up their mind with this exotic, whether they want it to be good, whether they want it to suck, kind of bugs me a lot. I think that this is a good exotic, but at the same time, just maybe like a buffer or two might put it up to that A or S tier instead. Thank you so much for stopping by this video. Hope you guys really enjoy this tier list. I don't really do a whole lot of tier lists, but I do think this is one that's pretty on the nose when it comes to deciding what exotic you need to use for PvE or PvP. I really love Titan. Titan's my favorite character. I will love Titan till the day I die. I will eat crayons every single day of the week if I have to. I can't wait to see what other exotics we get in Witch Queen to add to this list. So, guys, let me know, what is your favorite Titan exotic? Put it down below. Let me know what is another idea that you'd love to see for a Destiny Titan build. Now, again, find me over YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch at Birdman778. Make sure you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're using code BIRD at G Fuel. Check out. It helps me out so much. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great night, day, or whatever it may be.